happy Tuesday. This is Tara's Tuesday Talk with Tara Garcia, myself. And I am just happy to have the opportunity to chat with you today. But definitely, this Tuesday feels quite different than last Tuesday, and we all know why. Definitely an odd phenomenon, not knowing what's going to happen next week, what's going to happen next month, and not being able to continue with our plans, just in this weird Twilight Zone era of sitting and pausing and maybe even getting a little upset or frustrated. Maybe there's some fear in there and dealing with the coronavirus, but it's definitely a weird phenomenon, not knowing even maybe what we're going to be able to do tomorrow. It's the same here in Honduras. Our borders are shut down. There's no coming into the country of Honduras unless you're a national or a resident, and there's no going out. So canceled plans there. For myself personally, I was headed to New York next Tuesday with Trinity. So it's all right? We definitely try to find the value in the pause and the relying on the Lord, and understanding that having less control over our agenda and even where we're allowed to go. Here in Honduras, you cannot go anywhere unless it's you have a very good reason. So there's like cop stops, and they will ask you why you're going where you're going, and it has to be a legit reason. There's only 2 people per car. I don't know how strict it is in each of your states, but it's getting pretty strict here in Honduras, which on a level, obviously we appreciate. We only have about 6 cases in the country of coronavirus, and we are like happy to stay home and stay healthy. But obviously that makes other things a little difficult. Kids are getting stir crazy because there's no school, and all of those things. So it's very similar here in Honduras as it might be where you are. And like I mentioned, we're just, trying to find the value in having that less control of not just our agendas, but also of where we're allowed to go, what we're allowed to do with our day. And, it brings me just to the thought of the Matthew 6, the don't worry chapter is what I like to call it. Don't worry about what you're going to wear, what you're going to eat, what you're going to do tomorrow. Because, Jesus takes care of the birds, of the flowers. He's definitely going to take care of us. And our Jesus factor, our sweet Jesus factor that we as Christians have, definitely make this time more livable. And so just to remind us of that, don't worry about tomorrow. Today has enough trouble keeping our kids occupied as tomorrow will. So those are good words. And I know this moment can help us value that for after all this is said and done. How can we take that lesson with us that we don't need to worry about tomorrow because today has enough of its own, and Jesus is in charge and he's going to take care of us. So, there's some truth that we can pull from this crazy, odd experience that we're all getting to be a part of no matter what country we are in. But the perspective I wanted to bring to you today is quite different from any other perspectives you are probably hearing on social media. And it's the perspective of realizing that not knowing what tomorrow holds, not knowing what next week, brings, or even next month, this is quite a bit the life that a vulnerable child or an orphan lives all the time, sometimes their entire childhood. And because, whether they're in foster care or reintegration, getting reintegrated and then have to go back to foster care, waiting for mom or dad to get things settled so they can be home, that not knowing when they get to go home or when they're going to be adopted, if they're going to be adopted, if next year they're going to be somewhere different, if they're going to have to change foster families next month, like all of that, they live with that constant not knowing of what their next day might bring on a real life level. So we're experiencing in just a bit right now, but this is what they live with, guys, vulnerable kids and orphans. And so if we can take some of these emotions we're having right now, the anger, the frustration, whatever it might be, they have that, but they live with it constantly. And so I really feel like gives us a different perspective of why some of their behaviors might be the way they are. And as adults, when they grow up, why some things are more difficult for them on a daily level. And so I think if we can enter that mindset where we are right now, it will definitely help us serve better the vulnerable and orphan child, and realizing that they live with this constantly because they don't have permanency. They don't have the permanent, where I'm going to live, where I'm going to go, things like that, that we get to take it, like that we just take for advantage except for right now. And so just having that knowledge and that understanding I think can better help equip us to understand why the Lord called us to take care of the orphan and vulnerable child in their distress. Because they are distressed. Like the distress you feel right now because of the coronavirus and the effect it has on your life, they feel that constantly. And so that's why he's calling us to them, because we can provide permanency, because our lives are super settled compared to theirs. So whether we choose to be a foster family for them, whether we choose to be an adoptive family for them, or if just as a church, our church unit says, hey, I'm going to invest in every foster kid in my church right now, because they need to know wherever they go, they can come back to us. They can call on us. We can be that permanent family for them as a Christian family. And that can at least be the one thing that's permanent in their life. And of course, Jesus, the message of Jesus, that's who they can always go to. He's never going to leave them no matter where they're living or where they get transferred to the next week. And so providing that permanency for them on that level, I think really, really can be impactful. So just let's decide today that we are going to choose to provide some type of permanency for orphan and vulnerable children around the world, whether it's local foster care, adoptive family, investing in a family-based care organization like Identity Mission, or whatever it is. Let's take this experience and say, hey, I'm going to let God use this for good, and I'm going to choose to help provide permanency for an orphan, vulnerable child in the world, so that they don't have to experience what I'm experiencing now with the coronavirus craziness for their entire childhood. So thank you guys. Thanks for listening.